That made me like into a violent person. So I started to do armed robberies, bank robberies, home invasion robberies. It ended up catching up to me, and when I was 18 years old, I got arrested for multiple armed robberies. My mind was, forget about freedom, forget about a future in the free world, and now go into prison and become something. Move! That was the mindset. The guilt and the shame and the regret and it was just so overwhelming that I just was like, man, I don't want to live anymore.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester, your host of the Beliefcast. Today, I have an amazing guest who embodies the truth that no cage can confine a determined spirit. From serving time behind bars to becoming a CEO, Carlos Vasquez is here today. So, Carlos, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Todd.
You betcha. Carlos's journey is a powerful testament to redemption, resilience, and rebirth. While many see prison as the end, Carlos saw it as the beginning, a classroom for growth, a forge for character, and a foundation for purpose. Since his release in 2021, he has earned a degree in entrepreneurship from the prestigious Drucker School of Management, authored The Price, 5 Principles to Break the Bonds of Trauma and Achieve Personal Success. You've also launched another book called Warrior in the Garden, 7 Rules for Men, which we're going to talk about as well, and also launched How to Battle, a movement dedicated to helping others overcome their own prisons, mental, emotional, and physical. Carlos' life proves that transformation is possible for anyone willing to pay the price and fight for freedom within. Guys, you're in for a treat today. Carlos has one of the most amazing stories of overcoming a life of that no one would even suspect that you could overcome it. You know, when someone goes to prison, even if it's for a year, let alone, I think it was 20 years?
17 years.
17 years prison sentence. The odds of you being the successful person you are today are slim to none. So I can't wait for our listeners to hear your story. So why don't we start off, Carlos? Tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your childhood, if you don't mind.
Say that I'm extremely grateful to be here. I mentioned a line when I came in, and truly feels like this is meant to be. So thank you for allowing me to be here to share my story, my message. I grew up in a town just outside of Los Angeles called Upland. Before that, we moved around LA quite a bit. Me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. They came over here. So I'm a first generation American. They came over here from a small country in South America called Ecuador. Oh, yeah. They both came over here young, went to school, educated themselves, did everything right, pursued the American dream. And so we ended up in this amazing neighborhood. It was beautiful. Talk about like white picket fence style. Went to Catholic school, played baseball. I mean, I had no worries in the world. Like everything, I was very taken care of. Everything was great at home. My father was a doctor, mother a nurse, great life. And growing up there, I mean, the first thing that I remember seeing that was kind of like a traumatic experience was my friend, you know, falling off his bike and getting into like a pretty bad bicycle accident. And just, I remember like how much that impacted me, and my mother was there to help me and guide me through it. And so I say that to say that like that was my life in the beginning stages, all the way up until about the age of 13, where everything changed. One day my mother sat me and my sister down at the kitchen table and told us that my father was no longer going to be coming home, that he had left. So my father left our family to go start a family with somebody else, and my mother didn't really know how to receive that, and so she went into this very bad depression. And
so you didn't hear it from him, you heard it from her?
Yeah, from her.
Okay.
Yeah, from her. And I mean, I remember that day so clearly when she told us, and we were just at the table crying and we didn't understand, but she couldn't really explain it.
Right.
You know, she was just so filled with like this anger and probably just scared and just shocked. So it's like she couldn't really comfort me in the way then like she did before when the bicycle accident happened. And it shows that like the power that one person can have in a family dynamic. For sure. Especially a father, like he was like our, he was the foundation for us and everything. And so my mother became like almost like this stranger in our household to us. My sister started to get involved in drugs and around the wrong people. She got pregnant at 16. She's about 3 years older than me. Okay. And at 13 years old, I ran away from home and I left, just like a scene in a movie, packed my bag, jumped out of my window and left, and ran away. And that first night I was gone, I slept on a park bench. I remember I was so scared, and a big part of me wanted to go back, but there was like another part that just like just wouldn't. And I don't know, maybe it was just who I was. I guess I was very curious, but also like dealing with a lot of pain, and I think that household made the pain worse. I stayed gone and I ran away, and I ended up running away into an environment that was really, really bad. gang infested neighborhood, prostitution, drugs. Ended up there, and it was what kept me there was the men that were in that environment. You know, the gang members, the gang leaders, right. the men, the young men that were became like brothers to me, like older brothers and mentors. And I connected with them because they also didn't have their fathers in their life. And so that was like our common connection, even though we came from two different worlds, and also the need to be accepted.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? When you know, like, hey, this guy's going through the same thing I'm going through.
Exactly. You connect with those people. And,
right.
and I was so like broken and hurt and didn't know how to channel that or deal with that in a healthy way. And so drugs came with that. You know, becoming a gang member at 14 came with that. Doing crimes and being in and out of the system, meaning like group homes and juvenile facilities and placement homes, and running away and AWOLing from that and going back into the streets, and and just continuing to just adopt the ways of that world.
Right.
And it replaced everything I had known growing up, which was just like going to Catholic school and being a baseball player and having these dreams that were completely in a different path.
Right.
And now I'm here in this world, and my only goal is to become a respected criminal and a feared criminal within that gang life. And that was like my new trajectory and path that I wanted to pursue.
A couple things about the gang. So obviously you were struggling, you were in pain, but you join this gang, and they end up becoming like your family almost, right? Because again, all these guys understand me, they get me. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, then now you're asked to do some things that, to prove that you're loyal to the gang kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And you even said it, you were this feared criminal. Talk about that for a minute and what happened there.
Yeah, so it's crazy because in the gang life, your initiation is to be beat up by 4 guys for 4 minutes. That are bigger and older and stronger than you. And, you obviously can't win that fight, but
right.
It's all about like how you receive it.
Yeah.
Are you a person that's going to run? Are you going to cry? Are you going to, curl up? If you fight back until you can't fight no more, or till you get knocked down and you really hurt, that's a level of respect in that world. So that was my initiation into it. And I remember when I was getting jumped in, that feeling when I was fighting back, the initial want to fight back was solely based on me caring what people thought. I didn't want to be one of those guys to ball up and run, so that created me to fight back. But as soon as I started swinging and fighting back, I felt like the release of all that anger and that and from what I was going through and experiencing was like just channeling through me. Right. So that was me like knowing that violence helps me deal with this stuff, my anger and my rage and all these things going on within my teenage mind. So that introduction to that was like, I want to keep doing that. So I kept on perpetuating that and doing different things. And in that world, the most respected people are the ones that have been to prison. They're the ones that have the bullet wounds, or the ones that have killed people. They're the ones that are leading the charge to destruction. And so like for me, I've always been a person to try to do everything that I do the best I can, even now. But back then it was the same thing, just in the wrong way. Right. So I started to surround myself and get pulled by those who were in leadership positions within the gang, which made it even worse.
Right.
Because now there's really a higher expectation. I wasn't just riding the fence or one of those kids that was just getting into little trouble, but not really. I was all in the gang life. Like I would have gave my life for it and taken a life for it. And that's how much it had a hold of me.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So did your family know, you'd left the family and you're now into this gang? Did they know that you had joined this? Did they understand the gravity of what was going on, or was a lot of this kept from them?
Yeah. So my mother, one of the things, my mother, when I left, she never really came looking for me. I think she felt that I had a better chance to become a man, I guess, in that world.
Yeah.
But after a while in that lifestyle, I would go back to see her and bring her money and help her out, all stuff that I was accumulating through doing crime. And she would accept that, and it's not to talk about my mother, because I know she was broken back then to a point where she just didn't understand. And she's a different person today. But back then she was like, it was almost like her receiving that and knowing that what I was doing, knowing that I was a gang member, knowing that I was doing crime, and still receiving that and never really offering me like other solutions or options or saying don't do that. It was like almost like encouraging me in a way to keep doing it. And I felt this sense of like pride that I could take care of my mom in some way. And man, when you're young and you feel that, that's so addicting. And you just get deeper and deeper. And then my sister, like I said, got pregnant at 16, and she got pregnant right after she had her first child again. And her kid's father was actually one of my older friends from the gang, so she was enmeshed in the gang life as well.
Oh, gotcha.
So and that was it. Like everybody else in my family, I didn't really have any communication or contact with. I didn't know that those were the only two people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're in the thick of this gang life, and when you said you served a 17-year prison sentence, which I can't even imagine spending a day in there. 17 years.
Right.
And so talk about what led to the prison sentence, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to talk about how you took that opportunity instead of like, hey, my life's over. Like, no, this is where, and I know there's a chaplain involved. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So when I was in and out of juvenile hall in these placements, I was like just a decision away from prison. And at that point I knew I would go to prison, because like I mentioned, the ones that were really respected were people that have been through that. So I knew that if I truly wanted to be respected by that environment, by the gang culture, I would have to prove myself in that world, because prison is a whole different world from the streets. And so I had this always like, almost like I manifested it in some way, because I was so like just kind of like mentally preparing that one day it's going to happen. I just didn't know it would be for that long. You don't think when you're that young, you don't even think that. But I when I was, after witnessing my best friend and like brother kill himself in front of me when I was 16 years old playing Russian roulette.
Oh wow.
In retrospect, I understand that I had developed PTSD because of that. Whereas before I was like getting into a lot of trouble, but that made me like into a violent person. And it was because of what I experienced and never like being able to heal from it or process it really. And so I started to do armed robberies, bank robberies, home invasion robberies, all kind of stuff. And it ended up catching up to me. And when I was 18 years old, I got arrested for multiple armed robberies. I went to jail, and they told me that I'm facing life in prison because I was a documented gang member. And in California, they got the gang enhancement. So if you do a violent crime, then you can get an automatic life sentence for being a gang member. And so I was facing life in prison for 9 months going to court, until one day the district attorney, he just got this big case that came up, and he came up to me and he's like, look, I'm tired of you coming in this courtroom. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to make a decision on one opportunity. And it was for 20 years with 2 strikes. And I had 5 minutes to make the decision if I was going to take that deal. And now I'm 18 years old. I'm going to be turning 19 soon. And it's the toughest decision I ever made in my life. But I remember being in the courtroom, looking behind me in the gallery, and there wasn't nobody there. It was just me. And I had this like quick like reality check that it's just like me, and it's all I have. And you know what I mean? Nobody's going to do this time with me. It's all me. And I'm young, and I'm like realizing like all those friends that I had, all those people I would have gave my life for, all the people that I thought were my friends and loved me, this false love, none of them were there during my battle. And so I was like, all right, I have nothing to lose. And I took the deal, and I was 19 years old. I hit maximum security prison in California with 20-year sentence. So
wow. How are you feeling in that moment? I mean, I can't even imagine either, let alone facing life in prison, but 20 years, you're thinking, well, that's much better than life, but still 20 years is a long time. What was going through your mind and your emotions at that time? Yeah,
that's a great question, because it's like I have to put myself back in my 19-year-old mind, and if you think about when you're like right now, 20 years, I could kind of like I have the mental capacity to kind of foresee what that may look like, right? Yeah. Back then I didn't. And I had only been alive for 18 years, and to imagine spending more time in prison than I had been alive, and then going in with 2 strikes, when in California they'd strike you out for the smallest thing, not even a violent or serious crime, any little thing. It was like signing my life away in a sense, because everybody was telling me, including not just people inside jail, but including like other like my public defender and other people were like, 2 strikes, you can't do anything. You can't do anything in prison. You're going to get life sentence. And so it was like either I don't take the deal and I'm like guaranteed a life sentence, or I take the deal and I have a slim chance of one day getting home. Very slim.
Very slim.
And so my mind was, forget about freedom, forget about a future in the free world, and now go into prison and become something. That was the mindset.
Wow. Because I'm thinking, 1, you can't mess up, but 2, you still got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So now you're stuck. Like, okay, I got to still prove myself to these guys, which is usually doing something you shouldn't do, which would give you a strike. And there. So I can't even imagine just the cognitive dissonance that's going through your mind at such a young age, obviously. It just, I can't even imagine that. So,
yeah, I went into prison, and I remember the first day I went in, my first cellie was a guy who was a shot caller on the prison yard already. And he, first day, like I hadn't even really unpacked my little bag that I had with some stuff. And he was like, I'm gonna teach you how to make a knife, because when we come out in the morning to go to if you get called out in the morning to go to medical or to go see your counselor or whatever to get settled, you got to take a knife with you, because you never know, especially you coming in at such a young age from this gang, looking the way you do. Yeah. Like somebody's going to test you. Somebody's going to challenge you. It's guaranteed. And so you have to immediately prove yourself that you're not weak. All that stuff you did on the streets to earn your reputation, it really doesn't mean anything. And if anything, people will want to test you more, because if you think you were bad out there, and here, there's going to be somebody that like feels like, oh, I'm going to show him I'm better than him. It's it's like a mental battle. And so I went into just war mindset mode, and it was like, I didn't think about freedom. I was like, I just got to survive. And so that was the mentality going in.
Dang. Yeah. Obviously people who've never been to prison would probably have a hard time understanding this, but I've worked a ton with gang members. I used to work at the Salt Lake Youth Detention, where there was all gang members at the time, and get them one-on-one, man. You see the real them. They get emotional. Get them with their gang, they're a whole different person. They got to put on the tough persona, and it's just an interesting dynamic. And again, like, thinking about your upbringing, losing your father at such a young age, sisters struggling, obviously, mom struggling, you're hurting, don't know how to deal with that, so you leave and get caught up in this. And here you are, you're now in prison facing 20 years, still having to prove yourself. Your life, most people would say, okay, your life's over. 20 years, it's going to be hard for you to recover from that. You're still going to get out considerably a young age, but still the world's going to leave you behind. But yet something happened to you in prison, and there was a chaplain involved, and I'd love to hear you share that part of your story.
Man, it's crazy. I go through life so much every day, and I don't think about that chaplain. I've only really think about him when I have like interviews like this, and when I'm speaking, and I don't know, it's just like it just goes to show like the power of one person that they could have on others. And so my first decade in prison, I actually became worse than when I first walked in, because like going to your point, I had to prove myself, and I had to continue. So every time there was a situation, I was volunteering for it, and I got deeper and deeper into the prison world until about a decade in, I became a shot caller myself, and I worked my way all the way up to that. And
real quick, can you explain to our listeners who may not know what a shot caller is?
It's funny because I always say it, and the people know, but I would say this: if you ever get a chance to see Shot Caller on Netflix, go check it out.
I've watched that movie 4 times, Carlos. 4 times. I love that show, but it really puts in perspective like how someone can go and change like they did. So it's kind of what you were going through.
Exactly. A shot caller is not the biggest, baddest looking dude. It's not the guy with all the tattoos on his face and the most gruesome murders that did. It's none of that. What it is like, I learned this too, that the most dangerous people are those that mentally can maneuver through life and play chess in prison. And that's how it was. And so that was me. I was never like the biggest, baddest looking dude, but yet and still like people listened and respected me because of a multitude of things. I think for one, I had proved myself within that decade that I would be willing to be violent. to that I was following all of the rules, the unwritten laws of prison. I
Right.
followed all of them.
Yeah.
And really committed myself to it. Third, I was really smart in prison. Like I pretty much anything that I've ever tackled, I've been really good at mentally. So I learned prison quick. I adapted quick, and I excelled beyond like the average person, meaning in like how you navigate through it and how you even use like art of manipulation to get things done and all that. So that, and then also just like being able to communicate. So like I was able to communicate with Aryan brotherhoods and Black guerrilla families and, Wachings and all these different big, huge leaders of gangs, communicate that and be able to do the politics stuff. So 10 years in, I became a shot caller in prison. And the shot caller is a person who has the keys, meaning the power over a group of other people. Usually it's like a couple of hundred each shot caller, and there's probably like 5 shot callers per yard.
Okay.
And basically it means that if I want, this guy to kill that guy, he's going to have to do it. If I call a shot and say we have to remove him, 2 people I can select to do it. And it also means a lot of ego, being fed, because people are bringing stuff to your cell, extra things. You have all these benefits. Even the correctional guards are like building that in because they're giving you extra incentives because they know who you are and they want to keep peace within their people as well.
Right.
So just imagine that, like the mindset, that how deep I was in that life.
Wow.
And and you also know you're most likely going to get killed or end up where I ended up going. And those are like the 2 options that come with that. But that's how much you commit to it.
Okay. No, thanks for explaining that. I know a lot of people may not understand what that means, but thank you for sharing that. So anyway, 10 years in, shot caller, and you're worse off than you were.
Yeah, I never thought that I could be mentally broken, because and it wasn't because I was like mentally strong like I've developed now, but it was because I had this ego and these layers that were like, I'll never be broken and you can never, this will never phase me. I had been in and out of the hole before, for like a month or 2 at a time, and I was like, didn't have this mindset like I'm not going to let them break me. But it was all through negative. It was all driven through I'm gonna get out and continue to do crime. I'm gonna figure out how to call shots from back here. That's the mentality. And when I went, one day I was sitting in my cell on general population, regular day in prison, and they knock on my door, and I look over, and it's the people you don't want to see in prison, which is the goon squad. Those are the guys that they call the black patches, and they're like the federal agents of prison security. So not regular correction officers. They actually even oversee them. And so I knew it was bad. They cuffed me. They took me to solitary confinement. And they hand me my papers, and that means that I've been validated. It's a paper full of all kind of evidence and informants and all kind of things stating that I was a threat to the institution, so I could no longer be in general population, which means that I would have an indeterminate sentence in solitary confinement. Jeez. So like basically never get out of there. And so I remember, it didn't really like process in me what was going on. I still had that mentality like, oh, I'm bad and all this and I don't care or whatever. But then I remember there was like, I heard somebody down the tier, and in solitary, you're like, your cell, and then all you see is a wall, and then it's just tiers down, and they separate you enough so where you can't talk, but you can hear somebody. So I created a fishing line, and one of the things I learned early on, and I sent it down there hoping somebody would receive it, and they did. And we communicated through notes, and he introduced himself to me. I'll never forget him. His name was Brother Malcolm. He was an old BGF, Black Panther turned BGF, and I told him my situation. He told me he was in there for the same thing, validation, and he had been there for almost 30 years in solitary confinement.
Wow.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years.
Man.
And that's like when reality hit me, and I really experienced what it meant to be like just defeated and just wanted to give up. Yeah. And so that's when I had made a decision to end my life. It was around that time.
Really? Mm-hmm. So now you're planning this out. Like, I just want to be done because I'm not going to be here. I don't want to be in 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And it was just also, it was weird how like the time in solitary was a big part of it, but it was also like the guilt, and all of a sudden it just like hit me from like everything I did, all the people in my life that I hurt, people that hurt me, my dad, my mom, like everything just hit me. And I like reality, like it was like through the streets in prison, I was just in this other mindset. And then that moment in solitary, like it's like the old me came back, like this child me, the one before I left. And so I started to feel all of the feelings of like that, like, you know, a person would feel, like the guilt and the shame and the regret and it was just so overwhelming that I just was like, man, I don't want to live anymore. And I didn't, you know, at that point I wasn't like had no relationship with God or anything, no hope. And so I wrote a letter to my mother, a suicide note, just basically apologizing for everything I put her through. And it wasn't like writing a note and I'm crying and I'm like, it was very just at peace with it. I was like ready to end my life. I was like over it.
You were at peace with what you were going to do.
Yeah, what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I put it in my property, knowing that she was the one person that was like my emergency contact that they would give my stuff to. And I remember just like waiting for the time, because it wasn't obviously easy to commit suicide in solitary. They design it to where you can't,
right?
Because so many people have done in the past and have still attempted it. So there was one opportunity, which was when you get a shower every 3 days, and there's a correctional guard that takes you from your cell into this shower, and they're supposed to observe you and every time, and never supposed to be without observation. Right. And he gives you a razor so that you can shave. And that was when I was gonna take advantage of that and attempt to end my life. And right before that happened, a chaplain came into my life, and he it was around Christmas. I'll never forget it. I didn't even know it was Christmas. Like holidays.
Lost track of time.
Yeah, lost track of time. Holidays didn't exist to me. Birthdays, none of that. And but I remember like seeing him down the tier. I looked through the side of the crack of my door, and I looked down the tier, and I saw him, and he had Bibles and Christmas cards, and he was like going from cell to cell looking in, and nobody would receive him. And my mindset was the same way. Like, I don't want to hear or talk to anybody. And so I sat on my bunk with my head down. You know, my intention was to just ignore him. And when he came over, I felt his presence at the door, and I just like kept my head down. But he knocked, and I looked up, and I was just like, something moved me to go to him and speak to him. And I did. And he was the first person in a long time that looked at me and like he really cared, and saw beneath the prison, the prison door, and beneath the jumpsuit I had on, and saw like and I could feel it. It was a feeling of like just compassion and like a spirit that like he brought with him of belief in me, and that I had like some type of purpose. And I just was like, let me just listen to this guy. And I did. And he gave me a Bible, and he told me to start reading it. And he said he'd pray for me, and he left, and I never saw him again. But that changed everything.
So just that one visit.
Yeah, that visit and the challenge basically me to read the Bible and figure out what my purpose is and not give up. And I didn't want to let him down. And I didn't want to like go through with ending my life. And then like he came back 2 days later, like looking for me. And I was like, and the guard was like, oh, that guy killed himself. For some reason, like that moment of him caring about me made me like care about him. And how he would feel. It was like this powerful moment of like connection. And so I read the Bible, and I remember one of the first verses I read was Matthew 7:7-8. Like, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open. And it just gave me some hope. And so I started to read my word, and after that, it's like this ripple effect that just amazing things happen. Which first thing was a correctional guard that used to come by at count every night, would see me reading my Bible. And it had been a while, and he does count, looks in and walks, does count, looks in and walks. And one day he did count, he looked in, paused, and he called me over to the door, and he was like, I always see you reading your Bible. He's like, he was a believer, and he was really in his faith, and he started to talk to me about that, and we just connected. And he was like, yeah, man, I read a lot of books, powerful books that I think would help you. Can I share those books with you? And just give me the book back when you're done. I'll give you another one. And he's like, I never knew I didn't know at the moment, like what he was going to give me.
Right. Yeah.
But he ended up, the first book he gave me was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And
that's a big one.
And just like knew exactly what books I needed in my life. And each book like became like a human being for me in that moment that I needed to guide me, my mentor, like and I connected so much with these books and these people that wrote them and their experiences, like Nelson Mandela, and he gave me hope, and it just started to shift my mindset. And I read about over 150 books in 3 years. Oh, yeah, about a book a week, and
still in solitary.
In solitary for 3 years. Wow. And after 3 years, you go to committee every year, and you go to committee every year, and 99% of the time they're going to deny you to get out of solitary. And after 3 years, I had developed the ability to articulate myself well enough to convince them to let me out, and be able to, when they ask me questions, be able to use the stuff that I learned in the books to help me to convince them to see a different person.
Yeah.
And then they let me out, and I went back to general population with this new mindset.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And not only is it powerful when a person comes into your life, like what one person can do, right? Obviously you had the chaplain, and then this guard, right, who starts giving you these books, but also the words you were reading. There's power in words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we put words on our body. We'll tattoo a word because it means something. There's power behind it, good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Here you are filling yourself with all these good words. And is it fair to say, Carlos, that it started to like soften your heart? And I think people can notice that. Like the board or the committee was probably noticing, not just because you're saying it, but they could also see it probably in your countenance. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. The words and what I was learning and internalizing was changing me. And I was like, and I remember I would get up in the morning and be like excited to read my book, and because I knew that there would be something else in there that I can put into practice, or I can, I used to also write down things and keep notes and just like reflect and it was like during that process, I started to understand myself and understand like why I had, went from this kid who was, playing baseball and was really just a good-hearted kid to then like becoming this criminal and hurting people. I started to understand that as I was reading and learning and understanding that. And through the understanding, once I understood it, then I started to find ways to push through it and get over it, and like to move through it and putting things into practice to help me. So, and that was just from reading and learning and reflecting and praying and just trying to figure out a different way to live. And I did. But I mean, it was still like I was still in that place. So even though I had this new mindset, I knew, okay, I have to go back out to general population now. And like, how is this going to be received?
Yeah. How did you handle that? Because it sounds like you served less of a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
You were supposed to be in there at least 20, if more, but you were only in there 17, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you got the general population, so something good must have happened.
Yeah, I think about it as like I was really supposed to get out in like 2024.
Okay.
Right. So think about that. Like if I would have got that even during solitary, like I wasn't supposed to get out till the earliest was 2024. And I mean, here we are 2025, and I'm like those 3 years that I got out early were like, I mean, I built everything. So I got out of solitary and I went back to general population, and I started to really be tested, because I started to have these thoughts of, well, maybe I just like try to stay under the radar. Maybe I try to, not be involved in stuff, but I don't need to let anybody know who I am now, where my heart's at now. Because in that place, if you reveal that, likelihood something's going to happen, especially when you were that deep in it as I was. But I knew that if I truly wanted to be true to my change and really wanted to be the person like I wanted to be, which was like those people that I read in those books, those inspirational, powerful people.
Yeah.
I knew that I had to own it, and I had to like really just put it out there, my new self, and become that. And so I went out there and went to the shot callers that were there on the yard and told them that I no longer wanted to be a part of that life. And they all had knew me from the past, and they were like, okay. And then
so they respected you enough to accept what you were saying.
They did in the moment, and then so I thought, and then until I got stabbed 2 days later.
Really?
Yeah, I got stabbed 2 days later twice, my stomach and in my leg, and it was just like it came with it. I knew it was like really only two ways out. Like once I was that deep into it, 2 ways out, which was to be removed and off of the prison yard and be placed in protective custody, or to get stabbed and continue pushing. And so I ended up getting stabbed, and I stitched my wounds up and in my cell, and I stayed on the yard, and I went back out there and started to pursue my programs with other men and lifers, and I just was really I really didn't fear dying, but I was just really empowered by who I had become, and I didn't care if I died in there. At least I felt like I would die the person that I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that empowered me, and it inspired other people that were also there with me that I knew wanted to change, but they were afraid to make that shift. But then they saw I did it, and it kind of inspired them to walk through the door. And they did. Literally in the chapel every Tuesday, I would do groups, and we started to have these powerful breakthroughs and men opening up about experiences from their childhood, and we call it the Insight Group. Yeah. And a lot of those men are out here free today in the world doing amazing work, and I'm extremely proud of them. And so because of that, and because I finished, I went to high school and finished it in prison, got my degree in psychology in prison just to learn about human behavior, so I could be a better leader for the men. Sure. And then I became a mentor in prison, so I was actually like teaching classes for groups of guys in prison officially, and they let me out early. They let me out after 17 years instead of the 20. So I walked out about 4 years ago. And it's $200 in my pocket, starting over.
Well, what's also most really amazing about this is it's only been 4 years. I would never have guessed that. Like sitting here with you and talking to you and to listen to you speak, it feels like you maybe have been out for 20 years, right? So to be able to not only go through what you went through, but what I'm hearing is change had already happened. It had nothing to do with if you were in a prison or not. You had changed. Mm-hmm. So you leave the prison physically, but you had already changed. So you already had that momentum going for you. Is that fair?
Yep, it was.
Yeah. And, you're a podcaster, you're a keynote speaker, you have written 2 books now, and you do all these amazing things. And you've created this program called How to Battle. And you've done this all since you've left prison in such a short time. But that's why I keep saying, change had already taken place, but talk about, let's talk about how to battle and what that even means, because I know there's a lot there. You got a really cool hat on. It says how to battle, and it looks, I need to give me one of those.
Absolutely. I'll send you one for sure. I tell guys when I go back into prison and speak, and even just anybody going through their own like prison, mental or whatever it is. Yeah. I did the work on myself for 3 years, like tough work on myself first. Then I put it into practice for 4 more years with other people. I started to put what I learned into practice. So for 7 years before getting out, I was doing the work. And even though I shifted my perspective on what my situation was. I wasn't no longer in prison anymore. I would say I was in a Shaolin temple. I was in a monastery, and that was how I shifted it. I was no longer around criminals and gang members and heartless people. I was around men who needed healing. And that was when you shift your perspective, it empowers you and it gives you meaning in life. And I got that from Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning. And I put it into practice in real time, and it literally changed everything. The way I approached my day, the way I lived, the way I felt. And so even in prison, I felt free before I got out. When I got out, I brought all this with me, but it was also like, and I don't talk about this often, it's like I left such a big part of me behind. Yeah. Who I was, my identity in there, the people I was impacting, my work, my passion. And now I'm back in the world, and it's like, it's just me.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything, and I don't know anybody, and I don't know if what I did in prison I could ever do out here. I never thought like that, because prison was my world, and I didn't know this world and this technology and all this. But I felt that, you know what, at the end of the day, this is my calling, so I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I did, and I just kept learning and just asking for help and seeking guidance and working hard. And one day I was ending my business program that I was doing, and a part of it is if you create a business that's profitable before you graduate, then you can pitch to Google for funding to build your business. And that was my goal. Okay. And that's when I thought of like, I was like, okay, I want to make a business, but what do I do? And I was like, well, let me think about my life and what I've already done, and how can I take that value, the value that I was bringing to men in prison, how can I bring that into the world and like turn it into a business or movement? And so that's How to Battle came from, because I remember when I first got out, my teacher was YouTube. YouTube University, like everything, like how do I use a smartphone? How do I set up an email? How do I use Zoom? Everything was like, so I was like, you know what, I want to create something where somebody's battling through something, they can come to us. So it's like how to battle through addiction, how to battle through this, how to battle through that. And so that was the birth of it, the name. And then I was blessed to make it all the way to Google to get the funding, and with the funding it helped me to build my business, but also I got the mentorship from all of the people on the panel just because they were so inspired by my story, and so they connected me and opened doors for me, and I built How to Battle up. And then just this past year, so I started the podcast, which was How to Battle as well, and I've written a couple books, and I've been speaking. But this year we kind of like branched off, so we have How to Battle the podcast, and it's also like our brand, and then I have my own personal brand now, which is Carlos Vasquez Official, and then HTB Consulting, which HTB stands for How to Battle, is our consulting business that we've been growing, and doing a lot of people development for companies and institutions of learning. So
wow, I mean, amazing. Like, do you ever like pause and go, how in the hell did I get here?
All the time. I always have those moments like I can't look. My friend and mentor, Dan, he's like, just think about where you were 8 years ago. Right. You know, and I was like, when I really think about that, like just 8 years ago, even less than that, 5 years ago, I could never imagine, like my scope of vision wasn't even grand enough to imagine like where I'm at now. I couldn't even picture, like my reality getting out of prison was like, okay, I'm going to get off parole, get a job at like a warehouse or oil refinery or something, and just be free, enjoy freedom. That's it. I didn't really think anything that it was possible for me to achieve beyond that. So like so when I have those moments and I'm like, how I got here, I've come to the conclusion that I'm just like living my destiny again, like where I was meant to. Yeah. And so I'm back on that path of my destiny because so many amazing things are happening. And, and that's why I really try and help others to get there too.
I love that. You know, one of the best definitions I've heard of depression, what depression is pretending to be someone you're not. So you think about this, you said it when you started reading the Bible again and you had those experiences in prison, in solitary, you said all these feelings of like this, you know, I was becoming soft and this child, like, again, you know, even though it was really hard to feel those feelings, obviously, but that was the authentic you again. Yeah. Because you're like, why did I do all these things? And why did I get caught up? You started feeling bad about what you had done, right? Yeah. That was, so if you think about it, before, you know, your father had left, you're this kid and, you know, life was pretty good and, you know, you don't know any different as a young kid and you're living your authentic self, your love, your light, your energy. Yeah. And you get obviously some hard things come your way and boy, you don't know how to deal with that and you go down this other path. Then you break out of that, you start changing in solitary, and here you are today. You're now back to that again. So you're no longer pretending. Because you being a shot caller and a criminal and a prison inmate and all, you know, a gang member, that was you pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
That's why it left you empty. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And even everything, mentally, spiritually, even physically, I was showing my partner Shireen yesterday a picture of me. I was 160 pounds and I looked horrible. I was like I felt horrible. Like right now I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm, that was when I was younger. This picture, even in prison, I remember like how much that lifestyle and who that was, me pretending, or me like stuck in this state of mind that wasn't my what I was supposed to do, my destiny. It really took a toll on me in so many different ways. And ever since I got out of that and shifted back into my purpose, everything's been just great. And life is beautiful, and it's really all just feels like a dream, honestly.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you do now on a daily basis, Carlos, to kind of keep yourself where you need to be? I would love to hear that. Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, just every day, always trying to become the best version of myself, and always working toward becoming better, never feeling like I have it all figured out. So I'm always like trying new things and find what resonates with me. And for me, it's a lot of the stuff that I did in prison, I continue to do. Like reading and learning is such a big part for me, in many different aspects, for my confidence, for my mental health, for me to understand things. And I find joy in learning. So that's something I do every day.
Okay.
Being able to like be open and be myself and be vulnerable. When I was in prison and I started to do that in groups, it was really just so like it lifted this weight off of me. So I continue to do that, because even as a free, I'm free, but I still have a lot of the struggles that people have. I still deal with like pain and struggle and all those things, and even anxiety. I still deal with all that, but so much of it is about just me pausing and just making sure that I shift my perspective on how things are. Like if I'm frustrated or upset because I'm in traffic, and I just catching myself and saying like, well, maybe it's not meant for me to get there yet. Right. Maybe, just like it wasn't meant for me to get out of prison at that specific time. It was meant for me. Everything was meant at the way it was supposed to be. And if I choose to look at it that way, then the outcome will be good. Right. It's not going to be driven by like this negativity and bitterness toward things. And so it's just making sure that I maintain that mindset is critical. And then just always just like, staying physically healthy, continuing to meditate, continuing to learn new ways to better myself. Like I've recently started to learn more about like spirituality and just getting more involved in men's groups and even breath work and all these things to kind of optimize. And so, like it's always every day trying to get better.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yep, always trying to improve, and I love that humble piece, right? Because we don't have it all figured out, and there's always so much more to learn and that we can gain from, and that's why reading books is so powerful. Mm-hmm. One of the things that stood out to me, nowadays with social media, especially with these, I work with a lot of young kids who are just caught up in this social media prison, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a whole nother prison, and it really is. You think about it. Here you are in solitary. You got no distractions, zero. Yeah. There's nothing distracting you, yet you get handed the Bible, a book, and other books. You are locked in. You are focused. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said about that. Like, we need to do that in our lives, I think, is try to eliminate the distractions and really hyper-focus on what matters, right? These words you were reading were so powerful, but you had nothing trying to pull you away from it, which is, in and of itself, a really good thing. Yeah. I don't know if you ever connected those dots, but that's kind of also stood out to me as you were saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually one of the chapters in my book, the one I gave you. It's called The Art of Solitary Growth. Ooh. And it's a practice that I still do.
Can't wait to read that.
Thank you. And I share it with other men and people that I coach and stuff. It's like making time as much as you can to have solitary time, disconnected from everybody, every device, everything, and just be with yourself.
Yeah.
Just be present and like listen to yourself. Mm-hmm. Figure out like process what you've done up to that point, things that you've done wrong, things that you've done right, and what can you do better, and where do you want to go? What is your vision? What is your mission? Like, who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? What is your character? Like, how many people really know themselves?
Right.
And because nobody sits, especially youth, they don't sit down and take a moment to just like be alone in their own thoughts and to listen, right? Because sometimes the answers that you're seeking are within, right? And you just have to listen. And so the solitary growth is powerful, and I try to implement it into my life. And I just recently went on this men's retreat where I did it, and I was like in the forest and by myself, just alone, and I just like felt this just feeling of just so much gratitude and appreciation for who I am as an individual, right? And my connection with God and you know, the universe, and how like we're all interconnected, and there's just like this powerful force that's within us that we need to appreciate. And sometimes you miss it if you're just all constantly scrolling and looking at what other people are doing or comparing yourself. And so it's a powerful thing if you can, you know, and you should definitely do it for people out there listening. Just try it and try to do it consistently, and you'll learn so much about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's well said, my friend. If there's someone listening to your voice right now, Carlos, who's tuned into this program today, our episode, and I guarantee you there is, they're in a dark place. They are stuck. They are really, really struggling. What would you tell that person that's listening to you right now?
I would say that you're not alone. First of all, you know, most people are at some point in their life go through like a dark phase, or they're in a dark place. It's a part of like, you know, us being who we are as human beings. We're going to go through that. And I would say that, you know, the antidote for that darkness and suffering is finding meaning in life. And so find something meaningful. And maybe it's just like volunteering and helping people. Like maybe it's getting like a lady I just met who just gathers clothes and takes it to the homeless. You know, do something meaningful, right? Like you may not love yourself enough to do it for you yet. Eventually you will. So do things for others first, because sometimes through that process, you'll discover that like you're worthy to be loved and taken care of as well. So meaning and purpose, I feel, help with that, and that's what it did for me in my darkest hours. Wow,
well said. You know, I had a client say this to me once, and I want to share it with you, and I put it to my memory because it meant so much to me. And he said, I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother, I found all three. And that's really what beautiful. You're saying, right? When we go on and we get out of ourselves, you know, they call it the disease of me. It's all about me. If I can just break away from that just for a minute and do something meaningful for someone else, I'm going to find myself. I'm going to find my God, my higher power, whatever that is for you, and I'm going to find my brother. Right? That connection piece, right? The insight group, right, that you mentioned, which I thought, wow, what a cool name, by the way. Very, very, very cool. Dang. Such a great conversation.
Thank you. I know. Really powerful.
What an amazing story. What an amazing testament to, it doesn't matter what you're going through, you can change your life. But we do need other people to be brave enough to do, like that prison guard who said, hey, got another book for you. I don't even, I don't know if he'll even hear this, but I mean, wow. What an impact that had on you. And maybe he doesn't, I don't know if he even realizes that. Maybe he does. I don't know if you're still in contact with that guy. But I mean, like these little things, if we have a prompting to be helpful to someone, let's do it, because you never know what that's going to do to their life. Look what it's done for you.
It's done everything.
Wow.
Everything
it just blows
for me.
my mind.
Wow.
Well, if people want to reach out to you, Carlos, and learn more about your programming, your consulting, your podcast, your speaking, everything, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say, I'm so different places. So I would say just to keep it simple, like I'm on all the platforms and do all these things, but Carlos Vasquez Official, it's our new website. I had one before, we relaunched it, and that links to everything, all of my social media, all of my master classes that I have, my coaching, my speaking, my books, my podcast, everything is derived from there. So depending on what you feel you need in your life, go there. And that's like the hub for everything. And you'll find also our nonprofit organization that me and my amazing partner, Shireen, we co-founded together, called Pathway to Purpose Project. You'll learn about HTB Consulting, And if you want to develop leaders and upskill the people in your team, whether it's institutions of learning or corporate, but everything is Carlos Vasquez official website.
Okay, I love it. We'll put that in the show notes. People can click right to it, and we'll send hopefully hundreds of thousands in that direction.
Yeah, that would be
for
amazing.
sure. Because again, your story is amazing, and you give people, you've given me hope. I mean, I've done a lot of good work in my life, but man, you inspire me to even do more, and
thank you.
That means a lot to me. So thank you for being vulnerable today and spending some time. I know you got a busy schedule today, so thank you for being willing to be on my show.
Yeah.
It means the world to me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, you bet. Much respect.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. Carlos Vasquez, please reach out to him. Check out his website. If you have a loved one who's struggling and they're in a dark place, have them listen to this episode. Send them a link and just break the ice with them. Let them listen to this. It will inspire them and allow you to follow up with some questions. And I know you guys will do that. You guys have been such great followers. Thank you for believing in me. It means the world. Thanks to my sponsors. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I love you guys so much. And again, Carlos, one last thank you. Thanks for being a light in this world. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.